This video is proudly sponsored by Emma Sleep Mattresses. Hey guys, welcome back to my 9-month and 5,000 mile update on the M3 Touring. I checked last night and the last update video I did on this car was 6 months ago. So massive apologies about that, but I've been super busy and I've also had access to the G87 M2 long-term press car. I've had that for about 2.5 months now. And when you have a long-termer, you try and use that as much as possible. Factor in all the other press cars that I've had on top of that long-termer. And well, the M3 Touring, it's been sitting happy in my storage unit on a trickle charger. I'm off to Australia for a whole month tomorrow, so I figured I needed to get this out of storage and give you guys an update. Let's start around the front end. Unfortunately, I smashed the old splitter off whilst turning around in a car park with a failed surface. It was only one side of it, but I had to replace the whole thing, so I thought let's try something different. I spoke to Jack at Auto ID and he recommended this CSL replica front carbon splitter, and I absolutely love it. It looks very OEM plus and it doesn't look anything like some of the other M Performance stuff that is available for the G Series M3. After that, I took the car down to the guys and girls at Motech Performance, and their Motech Detailing team gave it a maintenance wash, just made sure that their ceramic coating was fine and that the car was in good shape. And that was just before I put it into storage. More recently, I popped down to Swift Performance to get my Edelweiss wheels reinstalled and the geometry done. We'll talk more about the geometry when I get behind the wheel of the car. But in terms of the wheels, well, if you're new to the channel, I had these on my M3 Saloon. And at the back end of last summer, unfortunately, I hit an unavoidable pothole and it absolutely destroyed both of the left rims and both of the left tyres. Thankfully, it didn't do any damage to the car itself. I've been fighting the council for the past year or so, but I'm just not getting anywhere. So I ordered 2 new wheels from Edelweiss, a couple of new tyres from Michelin, and they're now on the car and I think they look absolutely fantastic. By the way, it's extremely windy, so I really hope that the mic is doing a good enough job. And last but not least, I popped down to see Jack at Royal Steering Wheels, who retrimmed my original wheel with beautiful Alcantara. We've got a red strip at the top. It looks and feels like $1 million. Let's jump in and take it out on the road. As you might know, I travel loads for work. Whether I'm in a car or on a plane, I'm away from home far too much. So when I am back here, rest and recovery is very important. And although I get to stay in some incredible hotels, especially when I'm on press trips with various manufacturers, there's nothing better than your own bed, especially if, like us, you have an Emma Sleep mattress. And although this would be the ideal solution, I don't think it would really work in something like Porsche's 911. And I'm not sure that many airlines out there would let me check one in. We love our one because it's comfortable, it's firm enough, and it doesn't get too warm in the summer months. It also doesn't break the bank because you can get up to 55% off an Emma Sleep mattress. They get delivered to you in a compact box, vacuum packed. All you do is get the mattress in position like this one and cut the packaging, and then you watch it inflate and it slowly grows to the size that you see here. It's really simple and really effective. Life is ever more chaotic these days, so why don't you reward yourself with an Emma Sleep mattress? They also offer you a 200-night risk-free guarantee. Make sure you check them out using the link below in the description or in the pinned comment. Huge thanks to Emma Sleep Mattress for sponsoring this video. "5,000 miles in 9 months isn't exactly globetrotting, but as we talked about in the intro, I've had that long-termer M2 for the past 2.5 or 3 months, and during those 5 months I've probably had 12 to 14 other press cars to film, plus loads of trips abroad on planes, etc., where this has just been left behind. So actually, when you think about it, it's not too bad, but it's certainly lovely to be back behind the wheel of it, and it's been nice having some time away from it to fully appreciate what an incredible package this car is. But like so many brilliant cars, it does have some negatives, some of which I've talked about before and some of which I've discovered whilst living with it. So let's go through those. The first and most obvious one that I've talked about pretty much since day dot driving these G80, G82s is lack of steering feel. And although my lovely freshly trimmed Royal steering wheel now gives me back a little bit of feeling, it still does lack a lot, and it's nothing compared to something like Porsche's current 992 911, which also has an E-Pass electric steering system, but somehow Porsche managed to inject some feel into it, whereas BMW, I think they really fail with that. Another negative I've found living with these new M3s for the past 2.5 years or so is if you go for these brilliant optional carbon bucket seats, you do get a lot of wear on the driver outside bolster. At least I do, and that's from getting in and out of the car. I find that I do catch the back of my jeans, my bum on this bolster, and as a result it looks fairly worn fairly quickly, and I've had that issue with both of my saloons and now in this touring. And it seems it doesn't matter if it's Alcantara like it is in this car, or if it's leather like in my previous Dravit Grey M3 saloon, they all show wear and tear. It's a bit of a pain when you're living with the car because it is a wear and tear issue, and it does look a little bit tired after just 5,000 miles. It's easily repairable, but it is something to bear in mind and something to think about if you're looking at buying one, and buying one with the carbon buckets. My next negative is relating to the curved display. It's been around for about 2 years now, and it's trickled into pretty much every modern BMW, and I've actually grown to really like some of its functions and features. I like the display right in front of me in the M cars especially, but something I've realized actually living with the M2, which also has the same curved display, is when you're driving it at night, well, I like to have all of my displays in the interior as dull and low as possible so I can focus on the road ahead, especially if the car happens to have a very good head-up display like this M3 does and like the M2 does. But unfortunately, if you play around with the resolution control down here for its brightness, even when you put it on absolute minimum, it's still way too bright as far as I'm concerned. So I'm hoping that BMW bring out a software update that maybe changes that, makes it a little bit duller. And I know it doesn't sound like the world's biggest issue, but if you do a lot of miles at night, it does get a little bit annoying. That's it with the negatives. Let's get on to the positives. I love this car. I love walking up to it. I love everything about it. I love its practicality. I love the fact that you can fit a single Emma Sleep mattress in the back of it and genuinely go to sleep in it. It's a brilliant, brilliant car. I mentioned earlier on that Russ and Swift Performance have done the Geo, and it's made such a big difference to handling and to the way this car behaves on a UK road. You see, all of these modern M cars, the M2, M3 and M4, and in fact many modern 911s that I've tried, they're all set up to be extremely darty on the road. And that's okay when you're on a track because you want the car to be as pointy as possible and you can be really accurate, etc, etc. But when you're on a public road like this, sitting at 50, 60 miles an hour, you don't want the car to feel like it constantly wants to shoot left or right. You want it to just settle down and feel calm and almost grown up, because at the end of the day, the M3 or the M3 Touring, you're probably using it as your daily tool. You're using it for everything. So when you're on the motorway at 70 miles an hour with your family, cruise control's on, you just want the car to sit there calmly. So after Swift Performance had set up the Geo, it's just completely transformed this car. And I had my Geo done on both of my M3 saloons, and that also completely changed the way those two cars feel. I did say Russ, didn't I? Sorry, I meant Tim. Russ was actually away. Sorry about that, Tim. It's because I usually deal with Russ, but Tim is equally as good at Swift Performance. So yeah, sorry about that, mate. Really appreciate it. You've done a fantastic job. The car just feels so natural, so calm on the road, but yet when you really load it up, which we will get to in a minute, it feels devastatingly capable. When I first got behind the wheel of the new M2, I remember talking about how playful it felt in comparison to its bigger siblings, the M3 and the M4. And after spending a lot more time behind the wheel of the new M2, I stand by that. But what is really clear when you jump back into the M3 is how good the front end is on this car. And I feel like a broken record saying that, because I've talked about the front end of this M3 and the M4 so many times, especially when you're out on track, when you really feel it. But I can't say it enough. I can't describe how incredible it is. And although it really lacks steering feel, as we talked about in the negatives, it just has so much grip and so much poise each time you turn it in. And it's strange really, because it uses essentially exactly the same suspension. Okay, the spring rates are slightly different. It runs the same 19-inch, well, in this car's case 20-inch, but before I put the Edelweiss on, it was exactly the same. So same 19-inch, 275 section Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres, but yet the end result in the M3 and the M4 is completely unmatched. There's nothing out there on sale this side of the 992 GT3 RS that has a front end like this. Maybe the 992 GT3, but that's it. Something else I'm really pleased about with my M3 Touring is the extended leather. So the leather on the dashboard and the top of the door cards. I didn't have that in my rear-wheel drive M3 Saloon or my X-Drive M3 Saloon. And jumping out of the M2, where it's not an option and there's a lot of cheaper plastics around, you jump in here, and although the architecture, etc., the curved display is pretty much the same, it does feel like it's far more premium in here, and I like that feeling, and I'm glad that I've gone for it. I know it's an extra 1,200 quid or whatever it was, but it does elevate the M3 interior, the BMW interior, to another category. And I think ergonomically, even the infotainment, although they have taken away some of the buttons and the controls, I still think that BMW lead the way with all of that. We've got the iDrive controller down here, which I absolutely love. There's all these setup menus and modes that you can play around with. You've got your M buttons up here, M1 and M2, that you can preset. They've slowed them down now, so if you want to select M1, then you have to press M1 once, wait a couple of seconds, and then press it again to engage it. Now that gives me all my favorite drive modes, and I'm into manual, and I pull these carbon paddles, and it all just comes together so well. It's no massive surprise that 9 months on and 5,000 miles later, I absolutely love my M3 Touring. In fact, spending the past 2 months away from it has made me appreciate what an incredible package and car it is. It's just so capable. Wow. massive thanks to Emma Sleep Mattresses for sponsoring this video. Find a link to their website below in the description and use the code JOE10, JOE10. Thanks a lot for watching this video. As always, I hope you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up if you did, and I'll see you at another video, probably in Australia, very, very soon. Cheers.